put 0. Come on, go. There's like a little thick line. I go with. Y'all wanna go?
Hey everyone, welcome to the THETA Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm Wes Levitt, head of strategy here at THETA. I have a special guest with me here tonight, the man himself, THETA CEO Mitch Liu.
Hey guys, good to be talking to you all.
Hey, so we got a lot of great questions you guys submitted ahead of time, but feel free to throw some more in chat and we can dive right in. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah, hopefully you like some of the predictions we put up.
Yeah.
Should we give everybody a hint?
Yeah, go ahead. I see everyone's starting to make the predictions, but why don't you give them a hand?
Can we see what people are voting for now? Let's see. So we've got this back-end admin tool that lets us see all the coins that people are placing on these predictions. So what PC game does Mitch excel at? We've got 1.27 million coins on Minesweeper.
Really giving a lot of credit here for running a game company.
I don't know, guys.
Minesweeper.
I may be okay on Minesweeper, but that's not the answer.
Too bad. So besides that, go ahead and submit your answers to the questions. We'll have some more coming up. We'll also be giving away some great prizes, lots of T-Fuel and some cool THETA merch. So stay tuned for that. But for now, we'll just jump right into some questions. So, Justin, we want to kick off the first from our questions here.
So one of the first questions I see is, where was Mitch born? Okay, guys, you guys got to ask questions related to THETA or Fuel, not to the predictions.
Yeah, we can't give away free questions on it. You got to actually guess the right ones.
But I can tell you guys that I was not born in the U.S. So good luck. You got 3 other options.
Okay, why don't we jump over to the pre-submitted question here. So first one, someone had a great question related to adoption of the THETA protocol, which is what's our strategy to convince ordinary people to participate in sharing bandwidth? Not the diehards like the THETA fans here today, but how do we get the everyday person to start using THETA network?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think that kind of dovetails right into our long-term strategy for THETA and for Fuel. When we started the business Sliver, which is primarily in the esports streaming, as you all know, sort of competing in the similar space as Twitch. One of the biggest problems that we had was sharing our streams around the world, particularly in developing countries like Brazil and Eastern Europe and Russia. Not only was it very expensive, but the quality was fairly poor. So we launched THETA in the summer of 2017. Where we did a private token sale towards the end of 2017 to sort of address our own pain point. And so if you think about, we started in the live streaming space, but our vision is much broader than that. It's not just about live streaming of video, which is a very hard problem, but it was also about, of course, video on demand, sort of YouTube type of content, and moving beyond that to all sorts of use cases, like sharing file updates or game updates, right? If any of you play Fortnite, every update is a couple hundred megabytes. And if I pull that from the server, why should all my 5 buddies that play with me also pull from the server? It makes sense for them to pull that data from me. And so these use cases is really about putting THETA and putting blockchain user adoption in front of sort of the ordinary people. Anyone can hit the website, right? As you all are on the website now for Sliver. And you instantly start sharing, and it doesn't require any sort of download or any kind of installation. And it's really making it as simple as that without even necessarily knowing what a digital wallet is or cryptocurrency or anything like that.
Yeah, the game patch updates one I think is a really important one, because right now with live streaming, it is a very important use case, but the same one, it's kind of a specific one. I'm taking the action of going on to watch a video and then I share with other users. With the game patch, you can imagine a situation where it's just running on your phone in the background, or a PS4, or some other type of device. And that's really how an average user will get comfortable with using the network, is they don't even have to think about it as a daily thing. It's just part of the device they're using those excess resources.
So we got a question, I guess, in chat. How do you guys make money when you give out prizes and G Fuel?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. So as you all know, G Fuel has been a partner of ours for, I guess, almost the last year and a half. Terrific product. If you guys haven't tried G Fuel, you guys all should. And maybe if you win some right on our site. So if you look at a lot of the work we've been doing at Sliver is about partnering with very large brands. It's about working with great partners where we have 2.5, 3 million monthly active users. That's really excited about esports, right? That is crypto savvy, and so a lot of these brand advertisers are trying to reach this audience. So we do partnerships with them. We do cross promotion with them. They gave us free products where we can give them away to you all, and so those are the various ways that we make money. Also on the Sliver side, you'll might have noticed we're beginning to run some video advertising, sort of these pre-roll ads, and of course TFIL is a big part of the equation, right? It's our CDN costs are increasing pretty rapidly. But we're pretty happy to share. I think this is a stat that we have never shared, but we have now averaged and now exceeding over 50% offload given our current user base. And so it's going to be exciting once we get to 10x where we are today. It's very possible we get to 70-80% CDN offload, which is hugely significant, right, for any partner.
Yeah, any partner that's adopting THETA, not only is it direct to your bottom line because it's nearly one-to-one the CDN cost savings you have by offloading more to the network, but that's just more T-fuel that gets out into their user base, circulating and able to be used back on their platform, creating more engaged users. It's a win for everyone involved as long as we can increase offload. All right. Here's another user submitted question from before that is really interesting, especially in light of where we are on our roadmap. Yes, how will you make THETA network more decentralized? And to that, I assume we're referring to governance of the protocol primarily. And that's actually a really important one. So later in the next couple of months, perhaps even as soon as the end of this month, we'll have the first third-party validator node up and running. We can't share who it is right now, but suffice to say it's a very respected name in the space. You'll recognize them for sure. And the second potentially as soon as July or August. So that goes to the heart of what is our strategy for decentralizing governance, is that THETA Labs will not have a majority of nodes. It'll be controlling this. It'll be shared among other video platforms and other crypto space partners. The second half of that is, of course, when the Guardian nodes launch later this year. Some of the validator nodes that govern the network will actually be the Guardian nodes run by users in the community, which will rotate in. And so that you can kind of start to see the vision we have of governance is not just one party, or it's not just a certain company. It's us as the project team, it's the community, it's strategic partners, it's everyone in kind of a diversified landscape here. So that's kind of our vision for this year and beyond, how THETA actually gets to a decentralized point.
Perfect. I see a user question. Mitch, how do you split your time between Sliver and THETA? So, as a way of background, I think you all know that Sliver was the original company, right? So we started as a application, as an esports platform. And THETA Labs Inc. is a wholly owned subsidiary of Sliver. So we're both incorporated right here in the US. So we don't have offshore foundations. We don't have anything of that sort for a bunch of different reasons, including legal and regulatory reasons. So we're really, really excited at really upfront, really clear in terms of our structure. Having said that, we're a pretty small team, right? We're less than 30 people. We're all based right here in San Jose, in California, and great weather the last few days. I think yesterday we hit a couple records, right? It's like 105 degrees between yesterday and the day before. So again, very small team, and it's actually very balanced. I would say about a third of our core engineering team is on THETA. Another third is on the Sliver side, and then sort of this pool of a third of our engineering team, which is basically split right in the middle, which is where the streaming and the decentralized infrastructure for peer-to-peer data delivery resides. So it's sort of shared between those two groups. If you look at the 30 people or so we have in the company, other than maybe myself and Wes, we don't really do anything. We just talk. Everyone else is pretty much engineering and product and whatnot.
So someone asked, well, real quick, someone asked when this T-Fuel shirt will be available in the store. I was under the impression it already is, but if not, we'll make sure that gets added soon. Maybe this bomber jacket too, we can give this away to someone who was asking about it earlier.
That's a good question. You want to take that one? The initial Guardian nodes is initial cap of 1,000.
Ever expand that number? Yeah. So that cap of Guardian nodes, so there's a very specific reason for having that. We think based on latency between the Guardian nodes, that's sort of the theoretical max that we can have right now before latency becomes an issue with the Guardian nodes communicating and forming consensus with each other. But we'll be looking for ways to increase that cap. We would like there to be no cap on the number of nodes. That's the ideal situation. We just have to make sure that it doesn't cause a slowdown in the finalization of blocks. But the more nodes we can have, both the more secure the network will be, and just the more diverse the people running the nodes can be. So yeah, short answer, yes, we want to expand beyond that 1,000 node cap.
Another good question in chat. When will Universal Edge Cacher client be up? Well, I think that's another sort of piece of news that we can share with you all. We're pretty excited. Our roadmap, we're sticking right to our roadmap. Mm-hmm. Our beta of our Edge Cacher will be out by June 30th. Oh, I'm committing myself here.
I was going to say, give or take a week. You know how these things go. But yeah, June 30th is the target, and we expect it will be out, if not very shortly afterward. Very excited about that getting out, because just one more way for the community to get involved and start contributing to the network. We don't want THETA Labs running the show here. We want us to be a strong network of global network of the community operating on the THETA protocol. So
I think I just heard Jay and the guys in the back there panicking.
Yeah, you said they have 4 to 6 weeks, and now you committed June 30th.
They got 2 weeks. They can do it. Okay. We don't sleep over here.
Okay, all right. We'll tell them they got to get it done. A question earlier submitted: when will Sliver switch over all of their streams to the THETA network? So you may have already seen, actually, when we first launched the mainnet, there was one channel typically running on THETA, and where you could earn T-Fuel for relaying. And we're slowly starting to expand that. Sometimes you'll see 4 or 5 now. That's been our strategy to ramp this up as we continue testing and we continue onboarding, really high quality streamers for THETA channels. By end of year, we're looking to have the majority of channels all be running on THETA. In fact, it may be the vast majority, except for occasionally we do have special events that can't be run on THETA, whether it's a partner stream that we're hosting or that kind of thing. But for the most part, I would say that end of year, the majority of streams, unless it's a special occasion, you'll see will be running on THETA.
Yeah, I mean, our vision really is for Sliver to be the esports platform powered by blockchain, and I think that the value proposition of where you as a community, the more content you watch, the more you earn, really works and really rings a bell. It's a win-win for everyone. Some of you may already seen that for some of our streamers, as you earn T-Fuel, some of those T-Fuels automatically split to the streamer in something called streamer share. So it's sort of the concept of monetizing all of your viewers as opposed to just the people that sub to you. So that's really powerful. So we're beginning to expand that. In the long run, we see THETA as really being strategic and core to Sliver and differentiating Sliver from all of the other platforms out there, including Twitch. So Twitch, watch out, we're coming for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're not just trying to create a good experience for the users, but also for the streamers too. They're the ones actually generating the content for people to watch on the platform. So for the guys like Dubpace and Skackle and our other great T-Fuel streamers, we want to create a streaming environment and a situation that's better for them than any other streaming platform they can go to. And that's how we attract the great content creators going forward as well.
Great, so I think we have another good question from chat. Love the NASA feed. How did that come about? And will we see more of it? Yeah, that was more of an experiment that some of you may have met Tim Lee, who's our head of platform. Tim, in fact, is on a plane right now to New York to participate at one of our investors' sort of annual get-togethers, BDMI, which is part of Bertelsmann.
Yeah, it's a major German conglomerate. Yeah.
Media conglomerate that's worth a couple $2 billion and lots of potential strategic things happening there. So in any case, so Tim, our head of platform, he came across NASA, and he's a big fan of space and exploration and rocket launches and all that good stuff. So yeah, he just found a contact on the website, pinged them, say, hey, introduce ourselves, what we do. This is THETA. This is about the community. This is about our audience. This is the type of content that you guys, our users, may enjoy. And so we were, they gave us access to that native feed, and I believe we were one of a few sources where they shared that too. So really excited about that. I think it's those types of content and experimenting with that type of business that will separate us in the long term. So I think we're going to be probably putting in a little bit more time and effort towards that.
Yeah, and related, someone else asked in chat if we're looking at other ways to expand beyond esports content. And the answer is definitely yes. SLIVErtv is still at its heart an esports platform, but we had great feedback on some of the different experiments we've done on different types of channels. So we're going to continue to share different types, work with new partners that have interesting new content, and see what people think about it.
So I see this question come up a lot, and I think it's one that Wes, you kind of addressed it in our Telegram chat to some extent. Is when will we allow T-Field to be withdrawn from the Sliver site? So believe us when we tell you that we absolutely want to let everyone withdraw T-Field from the site, but there's a couple reasons that right now that we don't allow that. For one, the fraud element becomes an important piece as we move forward. As you can imagine, if you're earning fuel, it's very possible that someone could create multiple accounts and earn fuel, and therefore take it out of the system. This is actually something that's super core to our sharing of data, and the long-term sort of strategic element is how do we manage sort of this risk factor, this fraud element, and while making it fair to everyone in the community. And so we're actually building quite a few things in the back end in terms of fraud from a technology standpoint, identifying different aspects of that, including different back end sort of technical aspects. And also something that we haven't never shared with anyone. That's an example of the type of technology that we're building that is patentable. And so we are looking at applying for a number of different patents to protect us on that front.
Yeah, not on the blockchain itself, of course. THETA, anything related to the blockchain will always be open source, but some of the things we're building for fraud protection or for our streaming logic that actually powers the peer-to-peer network, those are things we're looking at that are potentially differentiators we'd like to patent. But yeah, it's a really important part about fraud protection as it pertains to Sliver withdrawals. We've actually made a lot of progress on that lately because that's something that's really important specifically to the edge cacher as that gets closer to release, because that's another potential attack vector. Someone wanted to spin up a bunch of fake users and then share amongst themselves. They're earning T-Fuel that ultimately comes from the platform, but they're not actually contributing to any real user. They're just draining T-Fuel from the network for no reason. So it's something we've been working on to get the edge cacher out. And it's something we've been working on for our partnerships as well, because we can't go to Samsung, CJ, all these, and tell them they need to figure out these fraud protections on their own. We need to solve this for Sliver so that we can safely open withdrawals. And then that's a solution we can also share with our partners and say, this is the good way to do it. We've tested different methods. This is the way you protect yourself while still letting your users have that freedom.
So I have a pre-submitted question. In the future, are we likely to see smart TVs and/or smartphones integrating T-Fuel? Well, that's a terrific question. And some of you may have already seen one of our announcements working with CJ, which is a large Korean conglomerate. They own a bunch of content in Korea. They're the largest producers of K-pop content and other Korean dramas. They have a viewing device that's similar to a Hulu box, it's a set-top box. So we've already begun to adapt the THETA protocol to be supported on that type of hardware, which is running a sort of a variation of an Android base, which with much less RAM and much less CPU power. So we're beginning to see some challenges there. We're working with them very closely. In some cases at the hardware level and their manufacturers to see if we can optimize it for the THETA infrastructure. So that's sort of the beginnings of what we're doing. As you can imagine, if we're beginning to work with them, there's a bunch of other set-top box manufacturers that comes to mind. We have a lot of ongoing business development efforts, and I can't talk about anything specific. We don't like to pre-announce any announcement, so we won't do that here. But we are also beginning to work with multiple smart TV manufacturers, as we speak. Again, can't announce it. Super excited about it. Smart TVs, you can imagine. If you just purchase that new TV and you watch that for maybe 3, 4, 5 hours a day, but what about the other 20 hours a day? Well, what if it could be in a sleep mode, it's connected to the internet, and behind the scenes, it's actually in fact sort of acting as universal edge cacher, and it's actually caching, relaying different content, right, to viewers that's nearby you, and you can earn T-Fuel and earn something of value for sharing that device, right, and sharing your bandwidth. So that is hugely strategic for us. That's a huge market, IoT devices. We see that as one of the ways to my original questions. How do you get ordinary people? How do we get real adoption in blockchain, right? I venture to say that with Sliver that we're probably already one of the largest on a daily active user basis, MAU basis, monthly active user basis of real usage of our tokens on the blockchain. But as we expand into IoT, smart TV, smart cars, smartphones, right? Smartphones, of course, mobile, then that becomes really part of our vision, sort of being that that fabric for the internet, right? Decentralized data delivery infrastructure.
Yeah. Any case where peer-to-peer transfer data is more efficient than all coming from a centralized source, those are all potential applications down the line. Yeah. Just to answer a couple quick questions that came in from the Sliver feed here. So someone asked about the Ledger wallet. So Ledger support is live on the THETA web wallet. We are working with Ledger team to get a native THETA app in the works. No ETA on that yet, but we're engaged directly with their team, and so we are working on that. Neil, a regular from our THETA channel, asked, what are we doing about our headcount? Are we expanding in the next year? Answer is yes. We don't have a specific number yet, but always more engineers. We always need. And the second thing is, as we start getting our first group of mainnet partners on board, and we start going into having more partners to bring on board, we're going to streamline that process and have some people specifically so that we can make that a simpler process and more standardized one. And then lastly, someone asked if the T-Fuel on Sliver is real or a derivative. It is in fact a real token. In fact, if you just click on your wallet right below the stream on a T-Fuel channel you're watching, if you click on that wallet, it'll go to the THETA Block Explorer and show you the specific tokens in your wallet. So no, they are not derivatives, they're real tokens.
And Martin's comment, thank you for always working hard and being transparent. Well, no, thank you all for supporting us,
Taking easy questions here. Huh?
I know, I can definitely handle that one. Wonderful news about the Ledger. There you go. Someone likes that. Yeah, there's multiple competing projects, right, if you will, internally, and we're always trying to prioritize in terms of what we feel is the most strategic for what we do. So it's never an easy task, but I've started, I don't know, this is company number 5 or number 6, I'm losing track now, and my experience, being Silicon Valley sort of entrepreneur, it's not necessarily about the number of people, right, going back to the team, but it's about the quality. And I gotta say, we've probably got one of the best teams I've ever worked with here. Now, I don't know about Wes. Wes doesn't really do anything. He only talks,
right,
but
right. The engineers are great.
The engineers are great.
Yeah. Okay, we'll jump to another pre-submitted question here. So, someone asked, besides staking, what other uses for the THETA token will there be? Sure. So, first, just to address staking, that's obviously an important one because as we, especially as we decentralize and THETA Labs does not have control of the network, staking is literally what secures the network. The majority of stake will determine all governance of the protocol, any changes to the protocol, and securing the network from any attack. So it's a pretty critical function. T-Fuel is, yes, the consumer-facing, the app sort of token, so that seems to be the exposure that a lot of people get initially, whereas there's a little more behind the scenes, but it's vital to the network, and ultimately it really is what drives how the network grows and how it changes and moves going forward.
Right, I think there's a chat question about something about a year ago. I kind of scrolled up. Do you guys anticipate being where you are a year ago, and what were some of the I think it's a bit further up. What are the areas you're ahead? What are some of the areas you find difficulty? And so that's a really good question.
So take the easy part where we're ahead.
Being the market that we're in, blockchain, as you all know, the crypto market, it's highly volatile. There's a lot of ups and downs, right? Things that we can't control. But, I think for us, at the core of what we are, what we do, we're technologists first and foremost, right? My background, I went to MIT, I computer science, I went to my MBA at Stanford, and I'm pretty nerdy, right? That's what I do. I start tech companies, and in the long run, we really believe that what separates us from everything and everyone else is just how we can execute from a technology standpoint, but not necessarily technology in a vacuum, right? But really addressing a particular, very real market need and real market opportunity, which is a big market, right? I mean, the market that we're in is a tens of billions market that we're going after. And, to be honest, another related question is, where do we see the future of T-Fuel? I mean, I would be highly disappointed if T-Fuel isn't that utility token that will be powering this network that could be worth tens of billions of dollars in the future, right? I mean, it's a huge market opportunity. So we really love the space that we're in, being in media and entertainment space. And again, going back to the adoption, right? Adoption, it's all about adoption. It's all about how many users we have on our network. And so we plan to really put that, really throw some fuel into that fire. In terms of challenges, I don't know, what would you say?
I would say the thing that's been most challenging that I didn't anticipate is I think I just assumed that everyone operated like we do, where we move fast and we, if something doesn't work, we fix it or we go another direction. It's just very easy for us because we're small and we're nimble. But by the nature of our project and our go-to-market strategy of partnering with these major platforms, we're not dealing with startups. We're dealing with very large, sometimes multinational corporations. And things just don't move as simply as we do when it has to go through, a simple thing has to go through a legal review, and then there's, X, Y, and Z, and it's just a long process. Things take time. So that's where we're kind of learning to both understand how that works and also how we can get ahead of that process. As it relates to mainnet partners, we're learning a lot about how they operate and what they need to get comfortable with these kind of things. So that goes back to what we were talking about, that as we start onboarding more partners, we can streamline that process, make it more standardized so that when we go to a new video platform, even if a lot of this is new to them, we can say, we've been through this before, we know this is the easiest path to integrate, and so on.
I think we have another pre-submitted question. It's a good question. How much of a role does Samsung have in shaping THETA policy moving forward?
Speaking of large corporations.
Speaking of large corporations, we started collaborating with Samsung back in when we raised our seed round of financing. Well, some of you may know, as way background, Sliver is a very typical Silicon Valley startup where we raised what's called equity financing, right? We raised money from traditional venture capital and corporate investors like Samsung to develop our platform and our technology. This happened in in the spring of 2016, and into 2017, Samsung came in, invested both times, and continue to invest in us. And we've been working very, very closely with them for the last, in fact, I would say every trip that we've taken to Korea. And as you all know, I'm in Korea, in some cases more now. I'm actually here in the States. I go there pretty much every month. And we make trips in multiple divisions in Samsung. And although we've only formally announced, I think, one partnership with Samsung VR, we have very much ongoing work with multiple divisions over at Samsung. Can't announce many of them right now, but it's Samsung's hugely strategic. In terms of how they shape our policy. So again, as a blockchain company, THETA Labs Inc. is wholly owned by Sliver, and one of the things that makes us and makes our company slightly different, I think, from the other blockchain projects, that the governance for the THETA project itself is through our board of directors. So the board and our investors is a very important part of our decision-making process and oversight, right, in terms of our usage of funds and how we grow value and all those things. And so Samsung is part of that. But really much more on the strategic part. There's a lot of collaboration. Again, being a large company, to Wes's point earlier, it's been a learning experience. It hasn't been easy. It's not easy working with a large corporation that's global 10, global 15 company in the world, in terms of market cap. But we're making progress, and I think that we're really picking up steam there. We're being reached, different groups within Samsung reaching out to us now, which is really great. We're getting the mind share, and that's how we become successful in a big company, a big partner like that.
Yeah, and on that note, we'll give a quick shout out to Samsung Next, which is their VC arm that invested in us, because as difficult as this process would be, it'd be much harder to navigate through a big company like Samsung without their help, and they've been great as far as both being our advocate in the company and explaining how the different groups work together and everything. So they've been fantastic for us, a big help.
We're halfway into sort of this AMA. Are we?
Yeah, I think
so. For all of you, you can't see Josh, but Josh is behind the scenes helping us out. So I'm actually not talking to a phantom person here. Josh is behind us, kind of help us run this whole show here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to draw the prize based on the three predictions that we have. Mm-hmm. Can we see? Okay, so right now, the first prediction: what is Wes's favorite NBA team?
And like overwhelmingly they say Warriors.
Which
makes sense.
Why would they think that?
San Francisco.
Oh well, yeah. Guess we're here. 7.5 million coins on Warriors. That's not bad.
I'm afraid the answer is actually it's the Portland Trail Blazers are my favorite team. I went to the University of Oregon. I lived in Portland for several years. Although the Warriors are a close number 2, but I'm afraid it's the Blazers.
What PC game does Mitch? Oh, I already told you.
It's Minesweeper, of course.
It is not Minesweeper. Although we've got 11.2 million coins for League. Oh, that's interesting. That kind of switched. No, but the game, my go-to game has always been CS, Counter-Strike. So I don't know. I spent countless hours while in college and doing my MBA. I guess this was Counter-Strike 1.6 for those of you that play CS. I mean, this is a long time ago. I don't want to date myself, but yeah, CS all the way.
All right, nice.
And what's the last question?
Oh, where was Mitch born?
Where was I born?
This is the one people have been hotly debating.
France, come on, guys! 277,000 coins on France versus 13 million for Taiwan. Yeah, I can see Taiwan. I already told you it's not U.S., but the answer is Brazil. So, for those of you, and if you can't tell my Brazilian part. Well, just wait until we go drinking, and you'll see the Brazilian part of me. But I grew up, I grew up with, playing soccer, right, in the streets in São Paulo. Portuguese was my first language. I am bilingual, so obviously I don't look Brazilian, but I do speak Portuguese. I do speak Chinese by way of my parents and my family. But yeah, came here when I was 12 years old, and Been back there just a few times.
Yeah, it really threw him for a loop on that one.
Yeah. Awesome. Are we drawing the winners here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and throw out some prizes here. So
let's do it.
See who wins the 10,000 T-Fuel, a T-Fuel t-shirt, and a T-Fuel mug.
10,000 T-Fuel?
Yeah, 10,000 T-Fuel.
That's quite a bit, isn't it? I told you 1,000.
Is that not enough?
All right, 10,000. What is that worth? About $100?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah. All right. So how did he pull up a winner here?
Okay, who do we have?
Looks like JMO, Party Freak 17, and Nucky. Is that JMO that gets the 10,000 T-Fuel? What's that? Okay, Party Freak 17 for the 10,000 T-Fuel. T-Fuel shirt for JMO, and Nucky gets a T-Fuel mug. Congrats, everyone. And we'll have some more prizes at the end.
Nice. Congrats, Party Freak 17.
Yeah,
Are
well
you
done.
in chat? Do we see you? If you're not in chat, you're not getting any.
Yeah.
Congrats, guys.
Yeah. All right, now we can throw up some new questions here. Give you guys another chance to show just how well you don't know us. Since it was 0 for 3, I think they got. So let's see if you can pick these ones out a little better.
Great. We're putting up some new questions. Yeah,
First
okay.
question is, what game from E3 am I most excited about? Okay, so, well, I'm not going to give it away, but pretty obvious, I think, from those choices there. Where did I grow up? And lastly, what was Mitch's job right out of grad school? Which company did he first work at? I know which one I'm picking out of that. All right, let's jump back into some questions. All right, here, let's pull a user submitted one here if we got it. All right, so this is just a moment here. Okay, our main goal this is a question was, what is THETA's main goal to accomplish by the end of 2019? So I guess there's two answers you can give. First of all, just obviously on our roadmap, you know that two of the major things getting out to the community is one, the Edge Cacher, but two, rolling out Guardian nodes. That's a big one for obvious reasons because it means the network's more secure if it's not just on a smaller number of servers and cloud servers that we're running nodes on. But it's also really important for engagement for the community. For those of you who run the pre-Guardian node or been around channels, you know it's been really cool to see how much the community's come together and is starting to coalesce around running nodes in our system, even though we're still a bit out from putting out the real Guardian nodes. But it gave us a lot of confidence that we actually would have a real community run effort with the Guardian nodes, seeing how even now users are starting to build analytical tools around it, ways to run nodes more reliably. So that's probably the biggest one as far as specific items go on the technical side. More broadly, I'd say our goal for the end of 2019 is just adoption in every way, shape, or form. As many users on platforms as you can, as many THETA integrated platforms, and just pushing on all fronts on here so we can get the word about THETA and make the network stronger as it grows.
You know, my hope is that, you know, as we go into the second half of this year, you know, we're learning a lot by working with these large strategic partners and corporations, and that really drives adoption, right? You'll start seeing at least one of them really pushing to commercial contracts, or in the process of negotiating and finalizing a commercial contract as we speak, which is fairly sizable. We're really excited about this one. There's you know, pretty big lead times when working with these types of projects, so we'd like to see them really come to market in a big way, with a big marketing push to their end users and consumers, purchasers by the end of this year. You know, I think that you know, part of our press release from our recent strategic round of financing that we did, so you know, we're very well funded. We're funded well into 2021 and beyond now as a project, but you know, with Samsung, you know, really wanting to work with us more closely, we you know, we opened up a strategic equity round of financing for them and blockchain, our partners at blockchain, which some of you may know, run one of the largest Bitcoin wallets in the world. And in both cases, is not just about them supporting us financially, but there's a bunch of strategic stuff that we're working on with them almost on a daily basis. And you'll start seeing some of those news come out, I think, over the next 30, 60 days, hopefully. That's really really key for us as we go into the second half of this year. Is also how we accelerate moving these business deals forward, right? These strategic partnerships. That's super important.
Worth Crypto asks, how about those awesome admins in Telegram? Yes. Give it up for those awesome admins in Telegram, making my life just a little bit easier. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Neil in chat also asked, this is a good one we saw before too. What's the biggest technical hurdle that you see going forward that needs to be overcome for the network to be successful? You talked a little bit about this before.
Yeah, there's a bunch of technology challenges that, I think everyone in the blockchain space is approaching the problem from different angles. In our particular use case with data and live streaming and live video, there is many different angles. Let me give you a specific example, right? So in working with CJ and their viewing device, the set-top box, we adapted our mobile Android SDK to support the set-top box Android version, which is slightly modified. But with their reduced CPU capability and less RAM, it really, we found some issues, right? So the way that we were approaching our mobile SDK is built on something called JavaScript, to set of JavaScript libraries that interfaces, right, with the native app, and it turns out that there's two very specific technical functions that we use when transferring data from the buffer on the device to the video player, and that uses some very specific JavaScript functions for doing that. It turns out that those two functions, whereas on a mobile device or on your PC, it takes maybe 100 or 200 milliseconds or less to execute those two functions. On that particular set-top box, it took between 1 and 2 seconds, which obviously causes an issue with live stream because you can't have that sort of delay. And that gives you a very specific example of the technical hurdles that we work on every single day, right? And at the end of the day, that's what's needed in order for it to be successful, because user experience, it's all about user experience. So yeah, moving forward, broadly speaking, from a technology standpoint, it's working on really hard problems. My past experience in doing so many startups, startups where we've built real value in the long term, right? And we're looking at this really from a 2 to 3, 5 year period, right? This is where we see an opportunity for us to be a top 20 project, top 10 project, and at the core of it is all about the technology. It's all about working on really hard problems and making sure that we scale, that we're able to scale, and part of that is once we are able to solve those problems, a lot of those become very strategic, right? It becomes a lot more difficult for another project that's looking at a similar space or in our same space to come in and solve those problems.
I saw someone in chat earlier asked about SLIVErtv Korea and what we're doing with Clayton. That's a great question we can elaborate on, and actually ties to another user submitted question that was, is 5G in direct competition with THETA's business model? So it's not, and as kind of relates actually to what our vision is for SLIVErtv Korea, because we see it as an end-to-end mobile experience where a user streaming a mobile game, unlike say like a PC game that they're streaming like a Ninja or Skackle or Dubpace. They're actually streaming on their mobile device to other mobile users and interacting with them in like sliver type reactions where there's polls, there's chat, there's different ways they can communicate in game or tell them which choice to make in their game. And we think that's really important, especially in Korea where we're launching this, because Korea is at the forefront of rolling out actual consumer-grade 5G technology. And the reason that's really important is because everyone can understand the use case for 5G when you want really fast download speeds, because there's always another high-def movie or another game that you want to download. But there's not really a killer app yet for having those blazing fast upload speeds, because unless you're uploading things to a file server or something like that, you don't use nearly as much. We think this can be one of the first examples of a case where me streaming the game that I'm playing to all these other users in the nearby vicinity can actually be one of the reasons why you would want really fast upload speed, like through 5G. So we actually see it as an enabler, and at least one of the use cases for THETA going forward for shared relaying video, and in the case of SLIVErtv Korea, directly relaying this gameplay to other users nearby.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 5G is really sort of the fuel that we throw on the fire. It's the fuel that's going to drive T-Fuel. It's about that. I don't know here in the U.S., but in the rest of the world. But for us to get 100 megabit, 200 megabit is pretty good connectivity. Where 5G promises up to 1 gigabit, essentially means that if you are a universal edge cacher, or if you are just a relayer in our network, that you are now not only serving 5 or 10 peers, but you could potentially be serving multiple X, 3, 4, 5X that. So it essentially means at the end of the day, for everyone in our network, that they are able to earn a lot more T-Fuel and tokens on any given month. And even so, as we look at network-wide, and I think we did share some of these numbers already, but we are consistently seeing, an average relayer in our network earning between $13 to $15 per month, if not a little bit more. That is a little bit dependent on the price of T-Fuel.
And also, if you're a very consistent relayer, you're obviously going to earn more than if you just pop on once a day. See if we got anything interesting from chat here. Otherwise, we can pull out some more of. Got some great questions from before. Here's one we can talk about. So someone asked, what's THETA's stance on increasing the THETA token supply? And second question they had was, can Guardian nodes vote to increase T-Fuel supply? So that's kind of a lot of different things it's touching on. So we'll just kind of give an overview here. The THETA tokens, there are 1 billion of them. Those can never increase. And they never will. And of course, there will come a day where THETA Labs doesn't have full control of this, but that is at the protocol level where that cannot change. The T-Fuel supply is 5 billion right now. That will start increasing once the Guardian nodes launch, because that's what nodes will earn in return for staking their THETA and securing the network. We've given guidance that we expect an initial increase rate to be about 5%. But the reality is that number is ultimately needs to be determined by what's the right number to incentivize enough people to secure the network. So it's not the 5% is some magical number. It needs to be whatever number it needs to be so that people run as many nodes as possible and so that the network is secured. To that end, in the future, when Guardian nodes are taking an active role of governance and when THETA Labs does not control the network, it's not Guardian nodes specifically that could increase supply, but yes, token holders as a whole could vote on protocol changes to change that number. Now, given they're all THETA token holders and earn T-Fuel, that's not to say they would. I think everyone will act in their rational self-interest, just like they need to in a blockchain protocol. But yeah, eventually it is the token holders who make those decisions. Mitch and I, and more importantly, JE and our smart development team, we're not going to be making these decisions forever. We're trying to give our guidance and create what we think is the best fit. But eventually, it needs to be a community-run and a decentralized government protocol.
Okay, so we have another question from chat. I think this one's been asked a few times before. What's the distance between peers to earn T-Fuel? That is an excellent question. And it may seem like sort of magic how this all happens behind the scenes, and sometimes we do see feedback from many of our users. Hey, I've been watching this and I don't have any peers, I'm not sharing, and And so it's all related. The peering logic is highly complex behind the scenes. And the short answer to it is, I think someone mentions up to 1,000 miles. That's actually pretty correct. You know, we're, for example, by way of example, so we see users that say, I may be here in the Bay Area in California, and let's say I'm on AT&T network, and Wes is right next to me, but he's on Verizon network. We may not actually be peers, even though we're right next to each other. However, if I'm on AT&T and you have another person who's in Seattle who's also on the AT&T network, we may actually be peers. So the way that that's optimized is based on a bunch of different things. But from a geo standpoint, from a practical standpoint, we do see, for instance, the left coast of the US being able to peer with each other versus the central part of the US versus the East Coast. And so what that effectively means in places like Europe, for instance, you do see a lot of cross-border countries, right? Because the region is slightly smaller. And so that's really an excellent question. We always continue to improve the peering logic. As you can imagine, it's not trivial. And at the end of the day, it's one very simple equation we're trying to optimize for, which is how do we maximize the earnings for each and every one of you, right? For each and every one of the network users.
So a couple questions in chat related to caps on two different things. One, peers on Sliver, and the second one was another question about the caps on or the minimum token requirement for staking on Guardian nodes. So I can address both of those separately, actually. So for your peers on Sliver, it actually is not exactly what it looks like on there. If it says 7 or 8 peers, the reality is for most consumers, your consumer upload bandwidth will cap you out at probably 2, 3, 4 that you can effectively peer to. You may see a higher number on there, but that's because in a peering group, you have you can think of it as backups or other users that you could potentially peer with that are nearby and good candidates. But you're probably naturally capping out at a handful of peers. Now, of course, there's a lot of users that have much larger capacity for upload, and that's something that'll come into play, especially once the edge cacher goes live, because that's going to be designed for sort of your super users that want to share a lot of bandwidth with the network and earn a lot of T-fuel for that. And so the sliver cap isn't really meaningful at this time. You're probably already kept out, but for the edge cacher, I don't think we're anticipating any cap on how many users you could share with. It will be limited by your connection. And then the second question was about Guardian nodes and why there is a minimum 100,000 Theta tokens to stake. So that minimum is especially important in the beginning when we have a limited number of nodes. And one thing that we've said before, but I don't know if everyone's aware, but we won't be rolling out 1,000 on day one. It'll be more like we roll out 100 Guardian nodes, and then as the network is functioning properly, we roll out another 100, and continue on until we safely get to what we think is probably the maximum we can do of about 1,000, until we make another leap in how they operate. So to that point, when you only have 100 nodes, if there's no minimum, it might be relatively easy for someone to spin up a lot of Guardian nodes, maybe even 50 or 75 of those, and they're actually taking an outsized influence in how those Guardian nodes are finalizing blocks. And obviously you don't want that if it's a malicious actor taking that big of a role in the Guardian nodes. So the 100,000 token minimum is meant to make it more difficult and more expensive to do that. So that if they have to break up however many tokens they have to more than at least 100,000 per node, it gets more and more difficult to do that, and more expensive for if you think of the cost of an attack. As we keep rolling out more nodes, and theoretically if there were unlimited number of nodes, that wouldn't matter as much. So down the line, that cap may be able to be taken away, but that's directly a cause of the fact that we're not going to have unlimited Guardian nodes at the start.
Just a related question, when will you be selecting Guardian nodes by Mbone?
Yeah, so we haven't worked out the exact selection process yet, although if you've been reading our blog, you've seen we give it some guidance about what we're looking for with the PGM program. Obviously, the more THETA stake, the better, just because that strikes directly at what we're talking about more tokens being staked and making a more secure network. Having very consistent uptime, so that you're a reliable node in the network, which is important for coming to consensus that there's a consistent set, so that each node knows who they should be taking votes for, votes from. And then also there's hardware requirements. You do need to be running a certain level of PC specs to be able to run the node. But the very specific idea of how we pick those, we have not finalized yet, and we're still gathering sort of information, trying to work through that. And we're listening to our community as well, in our Telegram, and the users that are running the PGN about their ideas on it. So,
and what is that time frame for?
Yeah, so I would say in the next couple months, certainly with some lead time before Guardian nodes actually launch, then we'll start making those decisions, and if necessary, we'll reach out or provide a way for people to put out their contact information. Because especially in the beginning, we do think it's probably better if there's some type of onboarding process, or at least a way for us to talk to you and the users running the nodes to talk to us, so that we can keep you apprised of updates. You can let us know your feedback, what's working, what could work better, and so on.
Great. Looks like we have just a few more minutes left. So if y'all want to chime into chat and ask some last-minute questions, our predictions. You want to go through what the numbers are? First one, where was Mitch's first job out of grad school? Look at that. So we've got 3.2 million coins on Google. That is not it. I'll tell you later what the answer is. Where did Wes grow up? 12 million says California.
That's such an obvious one. Why would people say that?
Wow. 12 million California. I don't know about that.
Okay.
What game from E3 is Wes most excited about? 19 million on Cyberpunk?
It's a good guess. I am a big Deus Ex fan, so I do need my Cyberpunk fix. Alright, so let me answer one more question, and then we'll draw the answers for these and give out your last prizes here. Alright, what's a good one? What should be our last?
I don't know. We'll pick I'm tempted to pick the easy one. What's a favorite food from MTM? Both Wes and Mitch. I don't know. I just had some really good tacos yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's my go-to. That and a cold beer.
Yeah. I would say sushi, even when it's when we have our catered sushi here once a week. I usually destroy that, even though, no offense to whoever does that, it's not the best sushi I've ever had. But yeah, I can't get enough of it. So, all right. So wait. Okay, we have to take one more. Mitch, how often do you have dreams about THETA?
Oh, this is getting kind of personal here, and I know Wes is a veteran doing these live streams with Kyle. For those of you that watched them last time, this is my first live stream. You guys are putting me on the spot. I don't do real good with this on the spot stuff. I
can tell you're stalling for time. Wait, how often?
Yeah, I know. We got 1 minute. Oh, time is up. Tell you the truth, I don't really sleep, so I don't really dream about THETA. No.
Working too hard.
Working too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but what we do is 24/7, right? You guys know that. Being in the crypto space, so we're constantly. I mean, we're on Telegram a lot. Wes is always on right before bedtime, first thing waking up. I'm on. On Slack, in our corporate Slack, talking, with the engineering team, working at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? 7 o'clock, and we're dealing with other issues. So
yeah.
So it's pretty much all we do, is what we're focused on. Cool.
All right, so let's answer these questions here. So first one, Mitch, where did you actually work right out of grad school?
So the answer is, drum roll, Salesforce. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it looks like 3.5 million coins on Salesforce, and everybody picked actually the right answer. So Salesforce. So I came out of school and was pretty early employee over at Salesforce. I think employee number 300 and something. That's sort of where I cut my teeth in working sort of in these large enterprises and really understanding how to work with these big customers, and a lot of that kind of finds its way in what we do here. Cool.
All right, next question. What game from E3 is Wes most excited about? Cyberpunk does look pretty good, and that'd be a close second, but it's definitely Doom Eternal. I played the hell out of that
Really?
2016 reboot. I think I beat that Doom game 5 times. So, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely looking forward
Trust
to
you on
sequel
that.
there. Alright, and lastly, where did I grow up? So, I was being a jerk. That's kind of a trick question, because I was born in California, but then I spent my teen years growing up in Texas. These guys are pretty smart. They actually picked California and Texas, so there's your answer.
Yeah?
Hopefully I lost most of the accent.
You have to pick one though.
Well, alright, let's go with California, since that is originally where I'm from.
There you go. 13 million coins on California. Okay, so are we gonna draw this one? It's again. Are we talking about 1,000 TFU or 10,000? What?
10,000 TFU.
That's not bad. Maybe we should do these a bit more often, right? So
Yeah.
get a lot more people involved here. 10,000 fuel. You got a T-Fuel shirt and a logo mug. All right, good luck, everyone. Yep.
I think that's the last one, unless they also submitted the same number of.
That's the last one.
Oh, no way. I already
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
I got worried too.
All right, so we have Twitch Arrow 1 that won the 10,000 T-Fuel. Congrats.
Congrats.
Also got Chutos with the T-Fuel mug and Fox 1K with the T-Fuel shirt. So congrats to all the winners. Thanks for everyone coming out and submitting your questions. And
Oh, we may have one last surprise, right? For everyone, can we do this? Josh, can we do this? For everyone that's watching us live right now, we're gonna do an airdrop of T-Fuel, right? For everyone. Okay, so how's this gonna work? We're gonna airdrop to everyone. All you have to do is go to your inventory, right? If you click on your top right, go to inventory, and then you have 5 minutes to claim an airdrop of, what are we doing? 10 T-Fuel to everyone. So that gets you all started on Sliver. So good luck, and thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming out and your questions. And we'll do this again soon. So get ready with some more questions. As soon as we have some more exciting news for y'all, we'll be back. Thanks everyone.
All right, bye. Good.